Hey Guitar Heroes, this is Mel from How to Play Guitars with the Today we are talking about a song originally recorded by the group Aha in 1985. Now it took them twice, actually 3 times, to make this song successful. The first 2 times flopped. It was the 3rd time, as they say, a 3rd time is the charm, that made this song super successful, and it was a video that they made it successful with. But we're basing our version on the Ashley Johnson version and Chris Rondinella from The Last of Us Part 2, also known as the Ellie's version from the video game The Last of Us Part 2. And so we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about finger picking, and I'm going to give you 3 different ways that you can actually work on this song. Stay tuned. Like I said, it took this song 3 times before it became a big hit, and it was due to the video that became one of the biggest videos on MTV history of all time. And it was because of a technique called rotoscoping. The video took up to 6 months to finish. The rotoscoping technique took at least 16 weeks to get that work done. And what they were doing was they were taking live action shots and tracing them frame by frame with over 3,000 frames to make it have a comic book-like appearance. And so because of that, it became one of the most popular MTV videos, and that's really what made this song a hit by the original group Aha. Now, in this video game called The Last of Us Part 2, Ashley Johnson, playing the character of Ellie, had to learn how to sing this song. And in fact, apparently she's a really good singer, and supposedly she had to dumb down her singing a little bit in order to be able to pull this song off, even with a vocal coach. Interesting. The guitar part is actually played by Chris Rondinella, but in the video game, it looks like Ellie is playing it. Now you can, if you watch it, you'll notice that it's not 100% accurate. Most of the chord frames, most of the chord shapes are accurate for the most part, although at least in a couple of them, it looks like she's playing B minor and actually should be B major. And the finger picking doesn't really look like true finger picking as it is actually in the recording. It looks almost like a combination of strumming and picking, but really it's all finger picking. I'm going to give you 3 different ways to play this song. One with the original chords and finger picking patterns, and then the other 2 ways are going to be with the capo, both at the 4th fret and the 2nd fret, with 2 different sets of chords. So, and we're going to talk about cage method too. So I would stay tuned if I were you, and I'll see you on the next scene. Okay, so this song basically consists of more or less about 5 chords. And it's in the key of B. Originally it was in the key of A. This particular recording is in the key of B with bar chords. Now, if bar chords are hard for you, this might be a good introduction video for that. However, I have another video that you should go watch, a video that I did about the song Hey Joe, as covered by Jimi Hendrix, in which I talk about the caged chords. This is taking this concept of caged, 5 chords that you need to know, C, A, G, E, and D, to a whole new level. All right. It's not difficult, but the chords themselves you're going to have to develop some facility with. So the very first chord actually is a C sharp minor, okay, which in this key is the 2nd chord. Now, I talk a little bit about something called the Nashville Numbering System in my Groupon School, skool.com/unleash your inner guitar hero. Go check that out. And in that, I talk about how we number our chord progressions with regular numerals, or also known as Arabic numbers. I learned to analyze chord progressions using Roman numerals, but for some people that's confusing, so that's why the Nashville Numbering System exists. So in the key of B, B would be 1, C sharp would be 2, okay? And so that's the first chord actually in the song. And what we're going to do in the beginning is we're going to use our thumb to either play notes on the E, A, or D strings, and then traditionally our first finger on the G, our middle finger on the B, and our ring finger on the E. However, in this song, a lot of times I'm only going to predominantly be using these 3 fingers, the thumb, the index, in the middle, because of the style of the guitar parts that are in this, okay? And much of the time, you don't even necessarily have to play 2 notes at the same time, although you do later on. In the very beginning, though, it's a very simple picking pattern that sounds like that. So, all right, and so it's thumb, thumb, middle, index, thumb. Thumb starts on the A string and then goes to the D string. Middle finger goes to the B string, and then the first finger on the G string back to the A string. So thumb, thumb, middle, index, thumb. Okay, that's on the C sharp minor chord. Now to get that chord, what we need to do is take an A minor shape like this and refinger it so that it's 2, 3, and 4, and bring it up 1 fret at a time until I get to C sharp minor. So this is A sharp or B flat, B, C, and then this is C sharp. Okay, so again, thumb, thumb, middle, first, thumb. Then I'm going to go to the F sharp chord, which is like an E chord, up 1 and 2 frets. Now, if that's a hard chord for you, you can do the Jimmy method. Again, go back and watch the video, the tutorial that I did about the Jimi Hendrix cover of Hey Joe, and I talk about how to use these Jimmy chords with the thumb over the top. You can actually do that with a lot of these. Sometimes you have to modify it a little bit, because on this one, I'm going to go from the low E thumb to the thumb on the D string, the middle finger on the B string, first finger on the G string, and then thumb is going to go to the A string. So the thumb is getting its use on all 3 of those strings, but it's skipping around a little bit from the E to the A, B string, G string, A string. So I should say E to D, B, G, A, E, D, B, G, A. So, okay. Now the good news is this shape is actually relatively the same from here to here. So it's not that difficult with some practice to get this. So, and the picking pattern is very similar, and the rhythm of the picking pattern. And by the way, there's going to be chord charts, sheet music, and tabs available on school, skool.com/unleash your inner guitar hero for you for this tune. So go check that out. It's only $1 right now to join that group. It's going up here soon. So that first chord at C sharp minor, here's F sharp major, and then I go to the B major. Okay, again on that B major, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an A chord and move it up 1/2 step to an A sharp or B flat, and then another one to B. Now, some people find this version harder, and I actually don't use it as much anymore. So I take the 3rd finger and cover the D, G, and B strings like this, while barring with the 1st finger. Okay, and that's my B chord. Now, really only going to play a few notes on this: the A string, B note, and then the thumb can go to the D string. Or a lot of times, actually, what I'll do is I'll actually play thumb, index, and ring, and then back to the thumb on the A string. Okay, and it's a very similar rhythm again. And then I go to this E shape. All right, now this E shape is based on a C chord. C chord, refinger is a 2, 3, 4, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. So my first finger is along the 4th fret. My pinky is on the 7th fret. And I'm going to pluck the A string with my thumb, the D string with my thumb, and the B string with my middle finger. Okay? And then I'm going to take that pinky and move it down 1/2 step to the D sharp and play the D sharp, which is on the A string. So A string, and then probably the 1st finger on the D, or I could go thumb, thumb. And this is a little walk down that happens in the song periodically, quite often actually. Some people are interpreting that as part of a G sharp minor chord, and you could say that in a sense. I think really what's happening though is you got the E chord, and then you're just doing a walk down to get to C sharp. And I don't really feel like she's moving those fingers much, or would be, And it's, you know, it's hard to say because I'm not really seeing Chris's fingering. I'm seeing Ellie's fingering, which again isn't 100% accurate. It's pretty close. It's really close. So, and you do see her, it looks like she's playing the bar chords, which, you know, so in the video game, that means that she would be a pretty legit guitar player if she was actually playing it. Because playing these bar chords are tricky. So the E, and then these two notes, which is D sharp and G sharp, and then back to the C sharp minor, F sharp major, A major, and then I play these two notes, which is the E and G sharp of the E chord, playing with my thumb and index at the same time. The 7th fret on the A and 6th on the D, and then I move my pinky down and I play 6th on the A and then 6th on the D with my thumb and index. So, and then I start back over. Now we're gonna start playing two notes at the same time. So on that C sharp minor chord, I'm gonna play the A string with my thumb and the B string with my middle finger at the same time. All right, and then I go to the F sharp chord, and the rest of the pattern is the same, by the way. So thumb and middle finger at the same time. D string thumb on the D string, middle on the B string, first finger on the G string. Together, D, B, G, and then I'm going to move this down to the F sharp chord. I'm going to pluck the low E string and the G string at the same time. And thumb's going to go to the D string. And I move to the F sharp chord and I play the low E string and the G string together at the same time. And then I'm going to go to the B, and then I'm going to do this where I play these two notes at the same time. This is 6th on the D and 5th on the B with my thumb moves from the A string to the D string and pluck the B string with the middle finger. Move thumb, play those two notes again. B, and then again. So just repeat this a bunch of times. Just about there, I get to the F sharp, and then I go to the G sharp minor. This is where a new chord gets introduced. The G sharp minor is a bar chord similar to the F sharp major, except you're going up 2 frets and taking off the second finger. You're going to pluck the E string and the G string at the same time with the thumb and the middle finger. Thumb on the D, middle finger on the B, first finger on the G. And then I go to the E chord again. Okay, so, and then go to the B again, and then the F sharp. Now on this B and F sharp, the picking pattern it's similar to each other, but it's different a little bit on the F sharp than it was before. So I have the B, which is the A, D, B, D strings, thumb on the A, thumb on the D, middle on the B, back to thumb on the D, and then back to the F sharp. Now the F sharp, I could do the Hendrix version because I only need these notes: thumb on the low E, 2nd fret, thumb on the D, middle finger on the B, and back to thumb on the D. So I'm gonna keep that second finger on that string on the G string just in case, because if I pluck that note, I want it to be the right note, not this, but that. It's a major chord versus a minor. I want to make sure you got the major chord there. Then I go here to the minor, and then I go to this E chord, and then move that chord up 2 frets to the F sharp. It's that C form again. And he kind of reverses it so that you play the A string, D string, and then move this up and play the D string and G string, and then the A string. At which point then we go back to the B chord, and then the F sharp, and then G sharp minor, E, F sharp, B, and then F sharp, and then G sharp minor again, and then we stay on the E. All right, and then these last 2 measures concludes the chorus. Which you got the B, the F sharp, G sharp minor, and then the E. Now sometimes at the end of that she'll hold that, I think the first time, and then other times later on she'll walk down to that G, to that D sharp to start back over. Okay, and sometimes on that C sharp minor, I think in the instrumental part, she hits, or he or she hits the E string with their ring finger just to add a little bit of extra melody. And almost not like they're going to do a solo, but then the rest of it's really the same. Okay, so that's the basic rundown of how to do that tune. And the very end of it, it just ends on a B chord. Okay, just A, D, G, and B strings. I would do thumb, index, middle, and ring. All right, you kind of slow down a little bit there. Now, if that's tough for you to use those bar chords, I have a couple alternatives. One of them is to use the capo at the 4th fret, and we're going to play the chords that you might already know: G, E minor, C, and D. However, the order is different. In the group over the weekend, somebody had asked me about the Nashville numbering system, and I talked about it a little bit earlier. And essentially, it's numbering the chords in a particular key so that you can change keys really easily. We'll talk about that in a minute, how to use that a little bit more in relation to the original version of this. But here is a G chord that's now producing a B chord because of the capo. So essentially, what just happened was if I have a G and I go up, it becomes G sharp, and then A sharp, and then B. So I put the capo on the 4th fret to make it easier to play that chord. Otherwise, it's like this form, which is hard for, well, with a bar, it's hard for people to do it that way. So we're doing this chord. Now that's the 1 chord in this key. That's the B chord. But it doesn't usually start on the B chord unless you get to the chorus, until you get to the chorus. In the beginning, it's that C sharp minor, which really I'm just going to use an A minor shape. And this gives me C sharp minor with the capo at the 4th fret. It's almost the exact same thing as what we had with the bar, okay? But it's this next chord that's different. I have to go to a D chord. All right, so this is an A minor to a D shape to give me that F sharp. Now before I had the F sharp down here, so I had a low F sharp here. Now I don't have that option. That's the main difference between the fretted version and the capoed version is at least one of your chords is going to sound higher, the F sharp, the second chord in that first progression. So in the key of B, like I said before, this is B, this is C sharp, so that's a 2 chord. This B, the E chord, and the D is the 5 chord. So essentially this would be 1, 2, okay, skip the 3, go to 4, go to 5, and then the E minor is the 6th chord. In this key, this is B, C sharp minor, E major, F sharp major, and G sharp minor. Those are the chords in this key. So I start with that C sharp to the D, to the B, to the E, and again, so this is basically the A minor shape producing C sharp, D produces F sharp, G produces B, and then the C chord produces the E. And now I just keep going with that. Right, and so forth and so on. Now, when I get to the next minor part, just the G sharp. Now, really quick, let me say this is, again, this progression is a 2, 5, 1, 4. Remember that, because that's going to be important. And then when you go to the chorus, it's going to go to the 6, and then the 4, 5, and then 1, 5, 6, 4, 5, 1, 5, 6, to the 6, 4. Now, if you've ever heard Ed Sheeran talk about the main 5 or 4 or 5 chords, 4 chords really, that are played in every pop song you can imagine, these are the ones he's talking about. Essentially would be the shapes of G, E minor, C, and D. Now with the capo, like I said, it produces different chords: B, G sharp minor, E, and F sharp major on this. But however, really what's happening is you're changing the order a little bit. So you're doing a 1, 5, 6, 4, and then back to the 5. Slightly different variation on that idea. Okay, so that's what we would do with the capo on the 4th fret. Now, if we move the capo down to the 2nd fret, let me just say the original version was actually by Aha was actually originally in the key of A. So the key of B is up a whole step. A sharp, B. Okay. If I go back the capo, if I put the capo back on the 2nd fret, I can still play A fingerings, but now it actually produces the B chord. So I can get closer to the original by doing it this way, in a sense. So again, that first chord though is C sharp minor in this key, so that actually gives me B minor. So I have a couple bar chords. That's one of them. But then I can go to the E shape, and then the A, okay, and then the D. So that's going to give you those chords of C sharp minor to F sharp to the B to the E, okay? Now, when I get to the chorus, I'm actually going to go to the minor. This is like an F sharp minor, but it gives me G sharp minor because everything is up a step, or 2 half steps, or 2 frets. So this is G sharp minor, and then it's going to go to to the D and to the E. Now you could go from here to here. You can't use the open string. So I would just go, okay, and then you've got the A to E, this bar chord here, F sharp minor, and then D, E, A, E, this minor chord, and then the 4 back to E, and 1, 5, 6, 4. Okay, so that's another way to do it with the capo at the 2nd fret, and that gets you closer to the original key, which was key of A, and this A being the 1, right? And it started on B minor, okay, and then went to E, and then A and D. And in this key, yep, that is 2, 5, 1, 4. Okay, so still using that Nashville system, numbering system, all over again. So if you're not quite comfortable with the bar chords yet, and you want to do the Ashley version, or the Ellie version, I should say, then I would start with the capo at the 4th fret. All right, then experiment with maybe moving it down to see if you can do those chords, because that's going to challenge you to then play some of the chords, 2 of the chords as bar chords, and then eventually you can learn all of the bar chords to do it the right way. So until then, this is Mel from How to Play Guitars with an S.com and Unleash Your Inner Guitar Hero, available on School right now, SKOOL.com, Unleash Your Inner Guitar Hero. Come check it out. Come be a part of it. We got people from all over the world. It's a lot of fun. Get to talk about guitar and learn about guitar together. And you get a couple coaching calls a week with me, so it's a good time. So in the meantime, I'm going to play out a little bit of this tune for you. See you next time.